Today on the Ave Podcast, I'm joined by my South Sharav family member, Roger Calendar, as we discuss the first third of this NFL season, which means breaking down the Cowboys and if they're for real, if Green Bay is for real, or if this season is more of a mirage. What in the hell is going on with Kansas City? Which of the bad teams have a bright future? Plus, we share our MVP list from the first third. Please enjoy. You want to know where South Sharav is available? Wherever you listen to podcasts. It's easy. Listen, rate, review, and subscribe. Leave comments. Share with your peoples. And I want all of that 5-star smoke. Like right now. All of it. Run me my 5. Run me my 5. And check out SouthSharav.com for all of my episodes. Once again, that's SouthSharav.com. This is the Ave Podcast with Cal C on South Sharav Radio. I said it's easy.
Welcome to the Ave Podcast with Cal C on South Sharav Radio.
Hey, before we begin the show, we got to talk maybe like a couple minutes. I know the game was almost a week ago now, but man, that Titans game, that Titan-Bills game, man, what the hell?
Honestly, man,
I'm still getting over it.
I'm still getting over it too, and I can't believe I can't believe how the Bills actually lost. I mean, it was such a close game. It was such a good game. I would have never guessed that the Titans would put up that type of fight against the Bills. But I mean, it's Derrick Henry. Well, Derrick Henry he doesn't make sense. In this day and age, this man does not make sense. He's getting older, but I feel like the older he gets, the stronger, the faster, and the more durable he gets. It defies all logic.
No, it really does. It doesn't add up what he's doing. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, I'm trying to let me see how old he is while I'm talking to you right now. You're saying he's getting old. Well, yeah, he's 27.
He's 27 years old, and he's going on what? This potentially could be his. Is it his second or his third 2,000-yard season?
It would be a second.
It'd be a second in a row. I don't think anybody's ever gone back-to-back 2,000 yards.
No. And we'll get to him in a moment because I don't want to spoil my list, but I have him somewhere on my top 4 right now. He moved up the ladder, since I conceptualized his idea of doing this pod. He's moved up the ladder.
Yeah, the man's a real force of nature, honestly. Like I would never guess. Like every year I look at this guy and I'm like, he's good. He's an amazing running back. But I think, okay, the regression is coming. And it seems like he just gets better and better. He reminds me of like Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
After Adrian Peterson tore up his knee, he tore his ACL. He came back and everybody was like, yeah, okay, it's a major injury. I'm sure he's going to be good, but he won't be as great as he was, the previous years. This guy came back the next year and he tore up the league. He had like over 2,000 yards. Yeah. And I remember thinking, this doesn't even make any sense. This guy's older than he was 2-3 years ago. And he's still running for 2,000 yards, even after a major injury too.
Yeah, 9 months after they cut into his knee, right?
It's insane. It's insane. And I feel like Derrick Henry is the exact same, except he's bigger, he's stronger, and oh my God, his speed! Yo, did you see how he outran the Bills' defense?
Yeah, you're really jacking my list right now. I'm telling you, should we start this thing?
Yeah, let's start, man. Let's start. It's all good, man. Let's start.
It's all good. It's all good. You're well within your rights to feel the way you're feeling because I honestly I feel the same way. Like what he was doing was just I don't know, man. It's just I'll save my comments for a little bit later, like I said, but it's weird. It's almost weird to watch.
Do you know how many touchdowns he has so far?
I know. It's nuts.
The dude has 10 touchdowns and he has over 700 yards. And we're only six weeks into the year.
I know.
There's still a whole 11 weeks left. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, but you know what? Let's save our Henry thoughts because I don't know if you have him on your list somewhere, but let's save it. Let's save it because I know I have him on mine. But
no problem.
Yeah, like I said, we've gone through the first 6 weeks of the season so far. There's been a lot of ups and downs. As usual, there's always a team that kind of pops up. A team that comes of age, like the Bengals. And then there's teams that kind of, they don't give you the run that you're expecting. Case in point, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now to you, like what's wrong with them? What's wrong with Kansas City?
It's you know what? Kansas City is a weird team, man. So number one, their defense. Their defense is horrendous. They can't stop anybody from running the ball. They can't stop the pass, and they can't rush anybody. They're absolutely terrible. I thought coming back from last year, I thought that they would have at least a passable defense, but I feel like they've almost regressed to the point where they're 32nd in the league compared to all the rest of the teams in terms of their defense. So I think that is a huge, huge problem. And I think another problem is that I honestly feel like the Super Bowl last year, the Bucks, I feel like they broke them. That defense, that defense that they played against them was historic, and it will be in the Hall of Fame one day. That defensive scheme will be in the Hall of Fame one day.
It would.
And I feel like they just haven't recovered. People have finally figured it out, and now what they're doing against their against their offense is, they're playing cover 2. Which is zone defense. They're double teaming Kelsey because they know that Mahomes loves to go to Kelsey, and then they have their safeties playing extremely deep, always deeper than Tyreek Hill. And by doing that, I feel like they're rushing Mahomes, and Mahomes is just, I feel like he's almost freaking out to a point because everybody's covered, and they have no running game. That's another problem.
Yeah.
The only way that you could beat a zone defense is by running out of it. And right now, Clyde's Hilaire is he's not doing it.
And he's hurt.
They're not doing it.
And he's hurt.
To top it off, he's hurt as well. So I feel like almost like everybody has the blueprint to beat them. Any defense that's somewhat decent has a shot, and if their offense is good enough to score points, I feel like there's opportunities for them to beat them. And I almost feel like Mahomes, he feels that he's putting everything on his shoulders, and he's trying desperately to throw a touchdown on every play. And because of that, this guy has 6 turnovers he has 8 turnovers this year in 6 games.
Yeah.
Last year, for the whole season, he only had 6 turnovers total.
Yeah.
So they're just giving the ball away, and they're making way too many errors.
What's interesting about them though is I don't even know if they didn't really lose too many guys defensively.
They did.
That's the thing that doesn't make sense either. Did they get old? Did they get old overnight? I don't know what it is.
Good question.
I don't know what it is because I don't think they lost it. They didn't lose their defensive coordinator. They didn't lose key guys. Tyrann Mathieu's still there. Houston's still there. So yep. I don't understand what's going on with them. But it's weird to watch because they weren't the greatest defense, but they got you stops when they needed to get the stops.
They did.
That was always, and they were kind of like a bend don't break defense, but now they're just straight up broken.
Absolutely. And last year, whereas they used to win games by putting up 30, 40 points a game, and their defense just doing enough just to stop the other team. Now the defense is they're like an open sleeve. Everybody's throwing on them. Everybody's running on them. They can't stop anybody, and it's horrible to watch. Who would have thought that the Chiefs, the Super Bowl contenders from last year, would be at the bottom of their conference this year? They're 3-3. They're below the Raiders, Denver, and Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos, and they're at the bottom of they're on the bottom of the food chain. Who would have thought that would happen?
The crazy thing with them though is they're still Mahomes is still a cheat code. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's always going to be a point where at some point, I don't know, maybe this is my feeling, but I feel like at some point they're going to snap out of it and all of a sudden they're just going to be the Chiefs again. But at the same time, especially when you look at legends and you look at the stars of the game and everything else, based on history, they're always going to have a period where, not that you regress, but you're going to have one of those, not every season is the top of the mountaintop type of season. You know what I mean? It's not peak era. So I feel like this is this is actually when you think about it, this is really his first year that he's actually really struggling since he's been a starter, right? The first year that he was starting, he won MVP. He was throwing, blind, Magic Johnson type passes, no look passes, like it was a Showtime Lakers. And I mean, really and truly, if the Patriots didn't have if they didn't win the coin toss, it might have been the Chiefs that would have been in the Super Bowl and won against the Rams and not them, right?
True.
Like that's how unbeatable they were at that point. And then last year, he got hurt, so I guess that was his adversity. But I mean, he was still lights out, right? And then last year, and then they won the Super Bowl, obviously. But then last year, same thing. Like he was Mahomes, right? Like he hasn't really struggled, really and truly, right? But this is the first year where it's like teams kind of figured them out a little bit. They don't have that third receiver or as you said, or a running back that could basically cut through some of those problems, right? And just cut through the line and, give you, even if they're not running 20 times a game, but even like 15 yards, 15 carries, for like 80 yards, you know what I mean? That type of thing. 90 yards, 2 TDs, that type of thing. Like they're not getting those games from those guys, right?
True.
And it's funny to say, like, because you watch him in Cleveland. I was thinking about it the other day when I was watching them. I think he was getting carted off the field. But this team actually, like, funny to say, with all the success they had, a team like this now, I feel like that they can maybe bring back Kareem Hunt. Because I think right now, if you brought him back on this team, they're lights out again. Because he's amazing. And I understand why they got rid of him, but I don't know. Like, he's been playing in the league for the last couple of years, so obviously that controversy hasn't hurt him. Would it really devastate the city if he came back? I don't know if it will.
Listen, they already have Tyreek Hill on their on the team, and his background in terms of him hitting his pregnant girlfriend in college, and honestly, it got dismissed, but it legally got dismissed, but I understand what you're saying though. It did, but it was pretty bad. At the time, it was bad. Yeah. Like, the fact that they drafted him, they did catch some flack for that, 100%.
Right.
So, at this point, I'm just saying, my point is, why not bring him back? Like, he was a stud when he was there, and right now, their biggest hole, one of their biggest holes, I should say, is the running back position. So, they need to fix that. Because it's one thing, when they were blowing out teams 30, 40 points a game, but it's another thing when they can't run the ball, and teams are basically rushing Mahomes, and it almost seems like he's freaking out to a point because, he's never seen so many people in front of his face. And then Kelsey's covered because, Kelsey's always his safety blanket.
Yeah.
And Tyreek isn't getting open as open as he used to because, teams have figured out you can't play this guy man because he's going to beat you every single time.
Yeah, he's too fast.
He's just way too fast. Exactly. You can't. You have to play zone against him. You have to play one guy in front of him, and you have to play a safety deep behind him. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
You're not going to win any other way, 100%. So, it's going to be interesting. Overall, I still think they're a really good team. But I'm sorry, man. If you can't play defense, you're not going to win in this league. They might actually be able to make it to the conference finals. But that defense, they'll never end up beating, like, let's say, the Baltimores or, they'll definitely not end up beating, like, whoever's inside the NFC. Whoever comes out of the NFC, whether it's the Rams, the Bucks, Arizona, they won't beat those guys with that horrible defense. They won't.
Now, what's interesting, though, with them is, it sounds funny to say, but I feel like there's a part of them that misses Sammy Watkins. And I know Sammy Watkins was hurt a lot of the year, but when you have that third receiver, but he's still, his history is he's always injured, but like there is a quality to him. You know what I mean? Like where he was last year, I thought that was like the perfect position for him. He was like their third target, but that third target was really good. He's been a number one receiver on previous teams, right? So you have him as a third guy now. It kind of it takes attention away, right? Like it takes attention away from certain guys. So like even like the Hardmans and those guys, now these guys are getting open, right? True. Like because if he was there this year, a guy like him would have been getting some of those passes. Like that would have been the release for them too, right? It's like I think they're missing that other receiver that can kind of release that pressure for Hill and Kelsey too, on top of the running game. You know what I mean? But I feel like they're missing maybe they thought Hardman or one of these guys would step up, but they haven't.
Yeah,
they haven't.
I think the original idea when they drafted Hardman was that Hardman would be that third guy.
Yeah,
and I think they almost took Sammy Watkins for granted because Sammy Watkins was there to make all the tough catches. Yeah, he's not as flashy as Tyreek Hill. He's not as tall and strong and sturdy as Travis Kelce, but he was a phenomenal third weapon in their offense.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're truly missing that. But I mean, realistically, what are we talking about here? They have the top tight end and they have the top wide receiver in the league. Yeah. There's no reason why they shouldn't be dominating. They just need to figure out how to run the ball. That's what they need to figure out.
I guess here's my other question here. Is it just me? Am I the only one that's sick to my stomach watching the Cowboys be successful again?
You know what, Calvin? Every single year I hear about how the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl, and every single year I just shake my head and I'm like, "Come on. These guys have not even sniffed the playoffs since Troy Aikman was in uniform. How many back in 1999 or whatever it was the last time they played in the playoffs?
The last time they won a Super Bowl, Biggie and Tupac were still alive.
Well, there you go. There you go. So every year I have to sit down and I have to listen to Cowboy fans rave about their Cowboys and how this year is their year. Okay. Last year, oh my God, they started off, they were, I think, like 4-0, 5-0. I think it was 4-0. Dak Prescott was playing out of his mind. He was like on pace to throw for like 6,000 yards, and then he got injured, and everything just basically took a turn for the worst.
Yeah, it fell apart.
This year, they're starting off really, really well, and I must say their team has improved considerably. Offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
Because defensively, last year they picked up Mekhi Parsons, the middle linebacker. He's a beast in the middle. And I think this year they got the steal of the draft, which is Trayvon Diggs.
I know.
That kid is a stud. Like a stud. Like he has I think it's six interceptions.
7.
Or is it 7?
I think it's 7 now.
7 interceptions in 6 games with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's
like the kid is unbelievable. That run rate it's not realistic. He can't maintain that, but he's flipping good.
He basically wrapped up the rookie defensive player of the year already.
100%, absolutely,
he already wrapped
absolutely. Yeah, even if he has maybe, let's say, another 1 or 2 interceptions for the rest of the year, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he wrapped it up.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. Zeke seems to be back in form.
Yeah.
Zeke is playing really well. They have Pollard, who's playing amazing as well. Mm-hmm. And I find that Dak doesn't have to throw for 400 yards, 5 touchdowns every single game for them to win.
Yeah, and he's playing well, too.
And I think that's a really good sign. Yeah, and he's playing well, too. Absolutely. Everybody's playing well. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb is a stud.
Yep.
Amari Cooper. You can't get a better number 2 guy than Amari Cooper, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think all in all, they have a really, really good team this year. So I think they will have the ability to go to playoffs. Because, let's face it, their division's horrible.
Yeah.
Eagles are crap. Giants are the Giants. Washington football team. I don't know what happened to the Washington football team's defense, but they have regressed. Like I can't even fathom what happened to them. I don't understand. It defies all logic. They brought back the same guys they had last year, and they're horrible this year. Last year they were a top 5 defense. This year they can't stop anybody. They can't stop the rush. They're not rushing the quarterback. Chase Young, who's probably one of the best linebackers in the game, he isn't even really doing much. I don't understand it. It's like they completely regressed.
Yeah, I'm shocked with that too, because their defense was pretty young, and the strength of the defense was being able to rush the passer, and I don't know how they're not getting to it. And nobody's hurt. They didn't lose, like you said, they didn't lose anybody. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. But you know what? I'm never going to be happy for the Cowboys, but you know what? Because it's almost like Roger's almost kind of cute. You're like, oh, look at these guys. Like they're all happy. They're celebrating. Like it's cute. It's you know what? They kind of deserve it because they've been going through it for the last I would say at least
2
10
decades.
Years. Yeah, 2 decades, but really in the last 5-6 years, they have not been. They've just been all hype. No substance. You know what I mean? But this time it's like, okay, they look like, Mike McCarthy's finally like put it together. You know what I mean? Like they got something where it's like, yeah, like this. You can see this team making a deep run. I don't know if they're going to win, but for all the flack he gets sometimes, like I'm a fan of Prescott, man. I root for him.
Yeah,
I root for him. I'm like Dave Chappelle, on the Chappelle show with when he was riding in the car with Wayne Brady supporting black actors. That's why I am a black quarterbacks. Black quarterbacks and black head coaches in the NFL. I ride with them, man. But but he's doing well. He's doing really well.
He is, and I can't even front on them. I mean, I've never liked the Cowboys. I've never liked the team, but I have to admit, like they are playing really, really well right now, and I think they will make it to the playoffs 100%.
Yeah, I don't think
they'll probably make it deep.
Yeah,
but I still don't know if they have enough firepower and their defense is good enough to take on the Arizonas, the Tampa Bays,
or the Packers,
the Rams,
the Packers,
or the Packers, or even the Packers. Which I find the Packers. I don't know what's going on with the Packers neither. Like they're another team as well. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know. To me, it just seems like their heart isn't into it this year. And
they're 5-1 though. No, that's the funny thing.
They are, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like they're almost like a fake 5-1, to be honest with you. They don't seem to be running the ball very well. Like Aaron Jones, he's not going off like he was going off last year. Devontae Adams. Do you know how many touchdowns Devontae Adams has this year? Dude has 1 touchdown, Calvin.
Oh, wow.
1 touchdown. I looked it up. I looked it up before we had this podcast. I looked it up. He has 1 touchdown this year.
That's crazy.
They're winning more on the defensive side, and then they're doing just enough to scrape by offensively. I just feel like Aaron Rodgers is almost checked out at this point. So I don't know. I don't know. They don't seem like the team they were last year. I'll tell you that much. Last year, I felt like they were a powerhouse. Aaron Rodgers was pissed off because they took Jordan Love in the draft. He had something to prove. He was the MVP. And I look at him now, and he's almost like I don't think he really cares very much, to be honest with you. I mean, you look at him, he doesn't really seem that interested. Probably because he knows next year he's going to be gone.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a team that could, I think, should go after him next year if he's a free agent. Who would you think it would be? I want to see if he gets the same team.
Let me see. So, I mean, there's been plenty of rumors of him possibly going to Denver.
Right.
Denver would be good. Pittsburgh would be amazing as well. Denver, Pittsburgh. I think Miami is going to get Deshaun Watson, so they're going to be out of the sweepstakes.
Yeah.
I think him and Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh would make a lot of sense.
That's the team I was thinking of. Pittsburgh would make the most sense.
Yeah,
I think would
so.
Make the most sense.
Yep, they have a good young team. They have a very young quarterback, a very young running back in Najee, who seems to be really good.
Yeah, he's nice.
They have some really good wide receivers. They have they have your guy,
Johnson, yeah.
Deontay Johnson. They still have Claypool. They still have a really good defense. Like they have probably a top 5 defense. I think he would do well there, and I think he would flourish under Mike Tomlin.
Oh, he
I
would.
really do.
And on top of that, the stability from the coaching to the front office, that nothing's changing there, right? That's the history of the team. In the history of the team, they've only had 3 coaches, right? So like
absolutely.
Like once you're there forever, and management, like there's very little turnover, right? So
they're like the anti Green Bay. They're like they're the complete opposite. They're like the doppelganger, 100%. Stable coach. Players are treated extremely well. And every year, I think we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. Never. Never had a losing season, which blows my mind. Even New England, the New England Patriots, who were basically dominant for 2 decades, they've had a losing season starting with last year.
Yeah, at least one, and probably
at least one.
2, yeah.
But Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season, so that just tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
I think if he goes there, they're instant contenders, 100%.
Absolutely, like I would put them right there with literally with anybody. Like they would be like a strong favorite to win it. To be honest with you, other than again Can you imagine what that division would look like if they got in there between Cincinnati, what was happening with Burrow, and then Baltimore? That division, if he goes to that division is immediately the best division in the
easily.
Excuse me, in the league.
Easily. And you know what's going to happen to Green Bay once he leaves that team? They're going to go straight to rebuilding.
No, man. Jordan Love is going to take them right to the championship. Come on. You know that.
Sure. Yeah.
Of course.
That. Sure, you will.
You know, they're going to Aaron Jones going to run for 2,000 yards. Devontae Adams going to break all the wide receiving records once he leaves.
Devontae Adams, this is his contract year. Devontae Adams is going to be gone, just to let you know. If Aaron Rodgers is gone, I bet you Devontae Adams is definitely gone.
And if anything, he's probably going to try to follow him.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. 100%. And that's the bonus right there. I mean, if you can afford him, that is.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, the Steelers makes the most sense at this point. I mean, he could go to Denver. I think Denver would be really good with him as well. I mean, with Judy, they also have Javonte Williams in the backfield. They have Judy. They have Tim Patrick, he's a fantastic, underrated wide receiver.
Yeah, Fant.
Noah Fant. They're stacked, and their defense is good.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think they would be a really good contender as well.
My team would have been a good one too, but I mean, because they drafted Trey Lance, I can't see them, doing all that, moving all those picks, trading all those picks away for number 3 pick, and then you have them sitting for the next 3-4 years because you still have Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to do that. Like I knew once they drafted him, I was like, we're out of this. We're out of the Rodgers sweepstakes.
Yeah, you know what? And I was thinking the same thing about the Patriots. I was hoping, even though I do love Mac, I was kind of hoping that somebody else would take Mac so that we'd have to do another year of Cam Newton, because I knew most likely the next year, there'd be a possibility that we'd be able to get Aaron Rodgers. Like, who wouldn't want to get Aaron Rodgers? Guaranteed, if Aaron Rodgers comes in, he's going to be your starter for probably the next 5 years, at least, minimum 5 years.
Well, especially how quarterbacks play now.
Yeah.
You don't get touched now. Yeah, I would have tell you, like, come on, Roger, 5 years, but then we look at Brady, right?
Yeah.
So as long as you have a very strong offensive line, which I think at this stage, if you're going to get somebody like Rodgers, you're going to shore up. At the very least, you're going to shore up your line. You know what I mean? Make sure nobody's touching him. Yeah.
Yeah, like Pittsburgh, if they were to get Aaron Rodgers, they would have to shore up their line 100%. Yeah. Like, I say 5 years for Aaron Rodgers because I think he's like maybe, 35, 36?
I think he's 37, actually.
Or something, something along that. Okay, 37, fair enough. I think the thing with Brady is that he's never been the most spectacular athlete. So he doesn't win necessarily with his arm. He doesn't win with his legs. Aaron Rodgers does. And Aaron Rodgers has had a series of injuries over the past couple years.
Yeah.
Broken collarbones and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, at some point in time, his physical attributes will deteriorate. So he'll have to depend more on his mind. And I just don't know if he'll be ready. I don't know if he could do it. Because I know Brady's able to do it. Like, he doesn't necessarily beat people with his arm, even though his arm is pretty strong.
Yeah.
He more beats them by coming to the line and figuring out the defenses. And he's one of those guys that could sense your weaknesses. And once he sees a DB that he finds it has a weakness, he will just keep on passing at him.
Yeah, so, he picks you apart.
He will. He will pick you apart.
But the thing is, they built like an all-star roster around him, basically, right? Like all the talent.
Sure.
They got a good running game now with Fournette. It's one of my big regrets that not keeping him in fantasy league right now is destroying my soul. And then
he's balling out. Oh my
man.
God! Who would have saw that coming? I didn't see that coming.
No, I didn't actually. I didn't actually. That was a thing. And the thing is, Roger, I almost kept him too. Even through all that, I'm like, should I keep him? And I'm like, last minute, I'm like, you know what? Nah. Let me try it another way. And the other way's not working right now. I'll tell you that right now. It's not working right now.
That's okay. You're in the same pool as me, guys. Trust me.
Yeah, it's sickening. It's sickening. Sundays can't go fast enough for me at this point. But with the Packers, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Rodgers because, like right now they're 5-1. I understand what you're saying because even when you're looking at his stats is like it's not great, but again, it's not great for him. You know what I mean? For anybody else, you'd be like, oh, my God, like this is amazing. But, looking at their schedule, in 2 weeks or a week and a half, they got the Cardinals, They're at the Chiefs.
Damn.
I think Russell Wilson comes back, should be back by week 10, so that's going to be a game. The Vikings, even though they're they're not the greatest team, but they actually haven't been bad this year either. And Kirk Cousins, as much as I can't stand him, he's been playing pretty good. And then they got the Rams right after that.
Wow.
And they got the Ravens on the schedule. Yeah.
And they got the Ravens too?
They got the Ravens on the schedule 2 weeks after, like in December. They got the Browns the week after. Like they're getting through the easy part of the schedule right now. So I understand what you're saying, but if they're legit, they're gonna have to get through that. Like they got a hard schedule coming up. So they got to figure it out. Now, before we move to our MVP list, who's like the shitty team that you think has the most upside?
Shitty team that has the most upside. You know what? Honestly, I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking long and hard about this. And I honestly would have to say Miami.
Yeah.
I'd say Miami. I'd say the Dolphins. I feel like the Dolphins are incredible underachievers right now.
Not to cut you off. What the hell is going on with that team this year? I did not expect this to happen. Like what's happening with them right now? It's like it has me at a loss for words.
I know. I can't explain it. I mean, technically they should be a lot better than what they are right now. They drafted a stud wide receiver in Waddle. They drafted an offensive lineman last year. They have Tua. He's in second year? It's his second year. I thought he would progress. I thought he would be doing better.
Can't stay on the field.
Their tight end Jasicki, he's good. They've always had a solid defense, even from last year.
Yeah,
I thought they'd be a lot better, but
even the running game. I thought even the running game would be solid this year too.
So did I. Yeah, like Gaskin, he killed it last year.
Yeah. I drafted him.
Killed it. Yeah, you did draft him in fantasy, 100%.
Because I was like, well, he had coming off the year he had last year. He's 24, 25 years old. I'm like, he's gonna be like at least a 2 to 3 down back. I'm like, man, this is he's gonna get at least 15 carries a game, at least. And wow, like they're like honestly, like you look at their run game right now, and like that to me is the most shocking thing because they're not even. Roger, they may at the most get like maybe I don't even know if they get to 10 carries a game through 3 running backs.
It blows my mind.
It doesn't make any sense. Like they're like honestly though, the one game where a running back had a great game overall offensively was Gaskin, but a lot of it was because they threw the ball to him. They threw the ball to him 10 times. He had 10 catches. But if you look at the stats, he had 5 carries. I'm like, how is this making sense? Like most of the time, whoever is leading the team in rushing that game doesn't get more than 6 carries. I don't understand. Like I look at their team and I'm like, what the hell happened to them from last year to this year? This doesn't make any sense. That's why I understand. Like when they're going for Deshaun Watson, I'm like, they got to do something. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't. I have no clue what's going on with this team, honestly. And I think if they get Deshaun Watson, I think they could. I don't know if they can rival the Bills, but I think that they could definitely give the Bills a run for their money. I watched Deshaun Watson last year. He lost D-Hop. Basically, his best wide receiver was Brandon Cooks, and this guy led the league in passing.
Oh no, he's legit. He's a legit superstar.
Like he's legit doing something with absolutely nothing. He is legit. And when I saw that last year, like I would have never guessed that he would have been that good. And that's after you lost your number 1 wide receiver. You picked up an aging David Johnson, who didn't really do much because they practically had no running game last year. And he still managed to lead the league in passing yards.
Yeah.
If you take him and you put him on the Dolphins with Waddle, what's the name of that receiver that was on Houston last year as well, and he's always injured?
Fuller,
yes.
They got Devontae Parker still.
They still have Devontae Parker, which Devontae Parker, I love Devontae Parker. I think he's underrated big time. I think last year he finally stepped into his shoes. But this year, I don't know. Like, these guys aren't doing anything this year. And I don't know if it's because of Tua. I know Tua was injured. He just came back. He's been injured for the past 2-3 games.
I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of him though. To be honest with you, like
of Tua or Parker?
No, of Tua. I'm not a big fan of Tua. To be honest with you, like I don't know. There's just something about his game, and I mean, I know what he did at Alabama and stuff, but I mean, none of that matters in the pros. But there's just something about him where I don't know what it is. I can't. It's not because he's not accurate. Like, he's pretty accurate. You know, he's got a. I don't think he has an. I don't know. He doesn't have an explosive arm. You know, it's just this, like he. How do I explain this? It's like you're being sold on the fact that he's like this dynamic QB, but I don't see it. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm looking at it differently, but I'm like, I don't see this like explosive guy. That's why I'm like, when you were hearing the talks for Deshaun Watson in the summertime, like from the summertime, I should say, I understood it because I was like, I mean, Deshaun Watson is legit. He's a legit superstar. Like, he's a legit quarterback. Like, you get him on that team, your team is instantly good right away.
That's
you know,
true.
he's like, he can run the ball. Like, he can run if he has to run, but he doesn't depend on his legs. He's got an amazing arm. You know what I mean? You can throw the deep ball anywhere, any direction. You know what I mean? And he's great in the pocket. He's super accurate. He doesn't turn the ball over. And he's elite. That's why I'm like, yo, this is a no-brainer.
I agree.
You know,
I agree completely.
Yeah, that's I'm like, for Tua, I'm like, yeah, it's not even like, you don't even think twice about it.
And you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because you're not the only person that has reservations about Tua. You know, even from talks from last year, and even though he was a rookie, they were still talking about replacing him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's never been a situation. I can't remember very many years where it's like a rookie comes in, you expect a rookie to struggle, right? I mean, that's just common. Like, look at the rookies last year; they're all pretty much struggling, which is absolutely normal, and it's okay. Last year he was struggling. Like, they had Ryan Fitzpatrick, who at the beginning, I don't know if you remember, he was playing phenomenal. He had them starting off.
Yeah.
I think they were like 7-2 or something like that. And all of a sudden, they decide to pull him just out of the blue and put Tua in. And Tua tanked. He did not play well at all.
Not at all.
And I don't know if you remember that. He did not play well. And then he got injured. And I almost feel like that almost destroyed his confidence. And after he got injured, there was whispers about them replacing him with somebody else. Deshaun Watson came up. A few other people came up. A lot of people don't like Tua. And I mean, I don't know. I still see him as a rookie, to be honest with you, because I feel like he hasn't had his full first year yet. But I don't know. A lot of people are raving about him
too. And like, he basically broke his hip. Like, that's a tough surgery to come from, man.
True. 100%. 100%. So I don't know.
I don't know who's a shitty team for me, to be honest with you. What, you know, at the time that we were planning to do this, before Gruden came and blew up the NFL, I wouldn't say they have upside, but I kind of like the way Detroit played. At least they played hard. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they lost 2 games this year on game winning, like 50+ yard field goal kicks.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember who. Like, actually, let me go.
Was it the Jags? I think it was the Jags.
No, it wasn't the Jaguars. It was the Vikings.
Okay.
And they came back and got that. And I mean, this week they're going against the Rams. They're going to get annihilated. Like,
get beat up.
But like, they at least play hard. You know, it would be crazy if they go 0-16 again. It's a real possibility. But it would be crazy, you know, because I mean, in 20 years they would have gone 0-16 twice. Like that's out for play right now.
Yeah, if that does happen, I honestly think that the NFL should strip the owner of that NFL team and possibly move them out of Detroit and give that team to another city. Honestly, because that's just ridiculous.
It's bad. It's
that bad. It's that bad.
Throw in the fact that 2 of the greatest players at their positions both retired early. You know, you think about Calvin Johnson, who just got his Hall of Fame jacket, but I mean, he could have played. Well, he said he was too mashed up to play, but I feel like if he was on a better team, he might have given it another year or 2.
There was more. Yeah, there was more to it than him just being mashed up.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to play. He was tired of losing.
Well, that too. I mean, I don't listen, I'm not going to like knock him and say that he's lying about it, because, you know, NFL is a cruel game, and I mean, he's a big guy. Like, he's taking their best shots. But you feel like if he's on a better team, maybe he doesn't take those kind of shots. You know what I mean? Because like, he was like their only target, like most of his career. You know what I
it's
mean?
true.
But like if he's on a better team, like imagine you put him on like the Packers or something like that. You know, like it's a whole different
Dominant.
story now, right?
True.
He's not getting
True.
drilled every game, so it's but like them and Barry Sanders, like you can't have that and you're watching then 2 0-16 seasons. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's embarrassing.
But I guess Miami. Looking at the teams right now, I guess Miami would be the one if you, depending on if you want to say the Reds. I keep saying the Redskins. Sorry, the Washington football team. If you want to say them, but yeah, I don't know at this point. Like
I don't know. It's I feel like it's almost too early to tell.
Yeah, maybe right now. Maybe right now, looking at it, because I feel like Denver's I mean, I'm happy for Bridgewater. I feel like they're a little overrated, but.
Right.
But we're looking like I'm looking at both. Yeah, looking at all these teams here. I don't. Yeah, Miami's probably a good call, but only because that Deshaun Watson trade is looking like it's going to happen.
100%. I agree completely. If I was to talk about like let's say overrated teams, I would look at maybe the Raiders. Like the Raiders. I feel like the Raiders are better this year. Like don't get me wrong, but I look at some of the competition they faced earlier this year, and I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't feel like right now. Like right now, I think they're second in the division, right behind the Chargers, I believe it is.
Yeah.
So I think it's Chargers, Raiders, and then Denver.
They're 4-2 right now. Yeah.
They're 4-2, right? Best start. I think this is probably the best start they've had in years, honestly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's the Raiders, so I can't really take them seriously. Not yet, at least. I can't. I can't take them seriously. Even at 4-2, I can't take them seriously. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you don't think they're gonna they're gonna fly in the face of Gruden and win the division? Don't think that's a possibility?
That's always a possibility, man. I don't know. We'll see.
Is it interesting though? Interesting enough. Good thing they didn't get to this December 5th game with Gruden still there because they played a Washington football team.
There you go.
That probably wouldn't have been the best.
Awkward.
That probably would have been the best thing. Had they
do you think they'd let him? Do you think they'd let Gruden in the stadium?
Yeah, probably not. Well, not now.
Definitely not now. Yeah, absolutely. He's
gonna have to go disguised like Mr. Magoo or one of those. He has like the fake mustache and a brown afro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably gonna have to be one of those things. All right, so let's get to our top 4 MVP list of the first third of the season. Sure. Like from when I made this list, for me it's changed. It's changed pretty rapidly. But that's the NFL though, right? There's a lot of moving parts. People get hurt. The teams go on a maybe a bit of a swoon a little bit. A player has an off week, and all of a sudden they're getting bumped up, or they're getting bumped down, I should say, off the list. Before we begin, though, I guess I'll start with you because we should probably go 4-1, I should say. We'll go 4-1 here. For your top 4, and we'll go shot for shot. Who's your fourth? Who's fourth on your list?
I would say Derrick Henry.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So let me just say this, right? So when I look at MVP, I look at MVP a little bit different from most people because most people think, who's playing at their best right now, right? Because you think MVP of the season, best person, who's got the best stats, and so on, right? I take it as who is the most valuable player to their team, right? Which teams do I feel that if they lost this person, the team would completely collapse and fall apart? That is it to me. Like, who is the most valuable player of the league? That's how I look at it. So that's why when I look at it, I mean, most of the times, like most of my lists consist of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I had to put Derrick Henry inside there this week because I just feel like what he's doing with his team is just incredible. Like he's dominating. And last year, Ryan Tannehill, he was a beast last year.
Yeah.
It was his first, was it his first or second year with the Titans? I think it was it second? I think it might have been his second year with the Titans. Yeah, and he was absolutely amazing. Like he was phenomenal. This year, he's completely regressed. They lost Jonnu Smith, who I feel was a much bigger loss than anybody thought of because he was kind of like his safety blanket, Tannehill's safety blanket. He had a ton of touchdowns. Like he was a sure-handed tight end. AJ Brown's just injured. It seems like he's injured all the time. Julio seems like he's injured all the time this year.
Yeah.
And I just feel like because of that, Tannehill has just regressed, and Derrick Henry has basically taken the team on his back, and he is the whole offense. They know that they're going to run. Defenses know that they're going to run the ball, but they still can't top him. They can't stop him. Like, this guy's still running for 70 yards. Like, he's absolutely incredible. And that's why I put him at number 4.
Okay. Mine is, there's no secret. I have him on my list, but he's a little higher on mine than he is on yours. For me, the 4th guy would be Kyler Murray right now.
Really? 4th, huh?
I would put him 4th for now. And I'd put him 4th for now. And really and truly, it's just based on the last couple of games. And, he was, like, he played good, but, he did come down a little bit, at least to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, I mean, when you look at the quarterback rating, I think he actually has the highest quarterback rating in the league. He's at 116, I think 116 quarterback rating, which is like I haven't looked at the list of the top top quarterbacks with the quarterback rating, but he's got to be in the top 2, at worst, just based on that number.
I think his completion percentage is ridiculous.
Yeah, 74%. Like, he's playing amazing. He is playing amazing. And I mean, and he's leading this franchise to the best record in the history of their existence, and like, he's the hub that controls everything. Like, he's honestly the one thing with him too. He's averaging about a fumble a game, which he's gonna have to clean up, But really, like, he's kind of maturing before our eyes. Like, like, he's kind of like watching him is kind of like watching where Russell Wilson was right after they won and they started like gearing the offense a little more to him. Like, Russell Wilson, I mean, he was a great quarterback, but then all of a sudden it was like he just looked like there was a level that he took. You know what I mean? Like, that he stepped up in, and that's kind of how I feel with Kyler Murray right now. But I think this list for me is close. I don't think it's like he's way 4th. Like, it's honestly, it's interchangeable, and he's really close. He could have been honestly probably about 2 weeks ago. I probably had him number 1. But
listen, this whole MVP race is just so close this year, and I feel like there's no wrong answers here, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Like,
it changes week to week.
But the thing is with him too, what you got to look out for though is, to me, he's gonna put up bigger stats, because when you look at the schedule, only the Packers, the Rams, and the Cowboys are teams they really have to be afraid of on the schedule. Like, I hate to say, but my Niners are getting hurt again, so I'm not sure how they're gonna look later in the season. I'm hoping everybody gets healthy, at least by halfway through the year, to make a run. And then the Seahawks, with losing Russell Wilson for at least a month. Like, they're gonna come down to earth. You know what I mean? So
for sure, 100%.
But I mean, other than those 2 teams in the division, like, the Rams. Like I said, the Rams is gonna be tough there too. But yeah, like, those 3 teams are the only ones that I see them being like a real threat. Other than that, like, their schedule's pretty easy. So I can see them putting up big numbers, and if they get to like 13, 14 wins, like, nobody's gonna be like, oh, he shouldn't win MVP. Like, you could see it. You know what I mean? You can see it coming.
Let me just say this about Kyler Murray, right? Mm-hmm. The one thing with Kyler Murray is when he started off hot, right? But he does have a shoulder injury right now. Yeah. And I think that is one of the reasons why he's not throwing the ball as well as he was at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's probably the reason why he's regressed a little bit in terms of his passing.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was there like for the first 3 games. He was right up there with Brady and everybody else, and Dak Prescott. Yeah, he's playing amazing, 100%.
They're the only undefeated team in the league. So
they are. They're 6-0.
Yeah. Who's your number 3?
Okay, so my number 4 was Derrick Henry. I would have to say my number 3 is Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. Okay. Wow, our list is looking a little different. All right.
Yep. And why? Because I feel like right now the Bucs defense is absolutely terrible. Like, I mean, they have injuries all throughout their secondary. I find like their linebackers and their D-line, they're not playing as well as they did towards the end of last year. And I'm finding that Brady is the one that's keeping them in games. He's basically throwing them into games. He's had a lot of close games, and right now he's off to a hot start. He leads the lead in passing. He's second in touchdowns thrown. The guy has like 17 touchdowns right now. And the dude's like 44 years old. Like, I mean, come on, like this doesn't even make any sense. None of this makes sense, Calvin.
No,
It doesn't make sense. Make this make sense for me. How a 44-year-old man is playing with a bunch of 20-year-olds and absolutely dominating. Absolutely dominating. But their defense is the reason why these games are a lot closer than they should be. Because the defense is not playing well right now.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you take Brady out of that equation, I feel like that the whole team would just fall apart. I honestly, truly feel that. Even though I feel like they have the best wide receivers in the league.
Oh, by far.
Yeah, they have one of the best tight ends. I mean, I think their stable tight ends are just amazing. Braid, Howard, and Gronk, fantastic.
Yeah. And Gronk's missed the last like 3-4 games too.
Yeah, he did. Leonard is still playing well. And I mean, Brady is he's still putting up like 300-400 yards, 3-4 touchdowns a game. Like he's on a crazy. His run rate is like 6,000 yards. So I mean, I know people don't want to put him in the MVP discussion, but how can I possibly not? Like he's playing so well right now that I think people just are accustomed of him playing well. That's why he's getting like zero. He's right now. People are more impressed with the fact that he's 44 years old rather than the fact that he's on a run rate of 6,000 yards and over 50 touchdowns.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I don't have him on my list, but I can't knock him being on yours. I mean, you just laid out the stats. I can't knock it. Like he's a beast. I feel like it's also at the same time it's him, of course, but I mean they surround, like I said before, they surrounded him with an all-star roster. You know what I mean? So I think that's like, you know, he's working it as great as you can. But I feel like that's like the part of it too. You know what I mean? So it's almost like you lose a little bit of points only on that reason. But I mean, and you look at their schedule. Like he could probably get to those stats because you look at their schedule. Their schedule is pretty weak because their division isn't strong. Just going over their schedule right now, like looking at who they have left to play, they're home to the Bears. They're at the Saints the week after. They got Washington next. The Giants, the Colts, the Falcons. Really and truly, it's only the Bills. Yeah. It's only the Bills. Like, that's the Bills. Honestly, the Bills are the only team that you got to be threatened by. And depending on what happens with the Saints, if they're going to unleash the playbook with Jameis Winston. But other than that, like, really and truly, like, there's nobody to be afraid of. Like, this team could easily go 14-2.
Okay, so let me ask you this. If Brady ends the season 14-2 or even 15-1, right? He has over 6,000 yards, over 50 touchdowns. Are you not going to give him the MVP because his team is as stacked as it is?
I think at that point you probably would have to, but I kind of want to see how the year lays out first. I want to see, you know, like if they kind of like, because you can see there's moments, especially if their running game is the way that they're playing. I wonder if at some points they're going to like lean on that a little bit more just to get them ready for the playoffs. You know what I mean? Because this team doesn't seem like it's stat driven where it's like, you know, you got to get Mike Evans his 1,500 yards. You got to get, you know, Gronk 1,000. Like, I think they're just like they're just trying to win the games. Like, they don't care, right? Because they know they're on a high profile team with Brady. So I don't think, you know, like it doesn't matter. Like somebody like Evans can go like 2 weeks and get like maybe like 100 yards combined, and then the next game he has 150 yards. Like, I don't think anybody cares. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. Like, I can see them, like, especially down like with Fournette running the ball and stuff. Like, I can see them there's some games, especially when they're starting to blow out teams. They may just be like, you know what, let's scale it back. At least towards the end of the season, let's scale it back a little bit just to get Brady ready for the playoffs. But then at the same time, Brady could be on this revenge tour of everybody doubting his age, and he can get and he can get to 7,000 yards. Who knows?
I feel like that's Brady every year, honestly.
Who knows? My number 3 might shock you, but it's Josh Allen.
Doesn't shock me. Okay. Doesn't shock me. I have him up there. The only reason why I took him down a peg, and I probably shouldn't have, to be honest with you, is because in the last game, he played really well last game. He did play really well last game.
Yeah, he did.
And I have to admit, it was just a slip. Like that last play of the game, I would give that, if I needed a first down and I had Josh Allen and I knew that I really didn't have any running backs in the backfield, I would give it to Josh Allen 9.9 times out of 10. You know, he slipped, he fell, he didn't make the first down. That was the reason why they lost the game.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen's definitely there. Like he could easily be up there as well. Like I can't even wrong you for putting him up there. Not at all.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because there's a small part of me, or at least probably more so last year, but there was a part of me that wanted to doubt him. But at this point now, like he is who he is at this point. Like he's really good, man, and they really built the team properly around him. Outside of they could probably use the run game a little bit more, but just to kind of save him, because I'm just, as time goes along, it's like unless you got like Lamar Jackson legs, like I don't want you running too much. You know what I mean? And he's not, and don't get me wrong, he's athletic, but he's not the type of quarterback that's gonna, like, you see when like Kyler Murray leaves the pocket, like you're not tackling Kyler Murray. You know what I mean? Like he's just so fast. You're not really getting to I want to say Mahomes. Even Mahomes, like Mahomes has legs where it's like he knows exactly where he's going. He doesn't take big hits, and I feel like Josh Allen, he's such a big guy. Like that's eventually coming. Because I remember that used to be Roethlisberger, right? Roethlisberger was a big guy, but he could move, and now you see Roethlisberger now, he's like a mummy, right? So
he's broken. Well, he's broken. That's why he's broken. Yeah.
So I'm like, if you like the kind of talent that he's got and the kind of money that you're paying him, I would try to use the run game a little bit more, but I mean, with that said, like, look, that game against KC was major, like in terms of exercising the demons. Yeah, but that was a major. Like honestly, up until this loss against Tennessee, I was like convinced this is the best team in the AFC, like especially after that game. Yeah, because they dominated them on both ends, and I never thought you'd see another quarterback outside of like Brady, maybe, or like a Rodgers, you know what I mean? That where you would say like, yeah, this guy was a better quarterback by far, that tonight and last that game, it was definitely Josh Allen. That Josh Allen was the best player on the field.
Yeah. I put Josh Allen in the same level as, let's say, like Cam Newton. He's a big guy. He could move. He uses his legs. He probably scores more touchdowns than his running backs.
Yeah.
Right? Which, I mean, to be honest with you, for me, I prefer he not be running at linebackers on the goal line. I prefer he not run as much as he can because I don't want to see him potentially injured.
Yeah.
And my whole thing, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love running quarterbacks. I think that they're exciting to watch. But I find more times than others, they don't have the long careers because they take so many hits, and it gets to a point where I almost feel like the refs just kind of think of them more as running backs than quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So they don't call all the penalties that they should because they see them more as a runner than an actual passer. And I feel like Josh Allen is getting to that point where it's like, he's running like he's running in touchdowns. He's going head on head with linebackers. And if I'm the Bills, I do not want to see my quarterback doing that. I don't.
Yeah.
He has a cannon of an arm. I feel like once he got Diggs, I feel like Diggs was that last piece that they needed in order to really like put him over.
It changed the
game. I completely changed his game. Before Diggs came, I mean, he was okay, but he had a lot of interceptions. I find he didn't really have that much touch. And I find that after Diggs came onto that team, it just opened things up for everybody, including him, in terms of him running, the ability for him to run the ball. But I think the fact that they don't have a running back, I feel like it really, truly hurts them. And I don't like seeing him take hits. He's a big guy. Dude's like 6'6", 250 pounds. And he can run the ball, but I don't want to see this guy potentially injured because it's only a matter of time. Football is a very, very cruel sport.
Yep.
And all it takes is one guy. Because I'll tell you one thing. I used to play football. And if I see this 6'6" guy coming at me, I'm taking him out his knees. That's what I'm doing. I'm not going head on head. I'm not standing up with this guy. I'm clipping his knees. That's the only thing you could do. Tackling this guy is a business decision. That's what it is. It's a flipping business decision. So I just get nervous. Whenever I see him run the ball, I'm impressed because he's so big and he can move. But I'm also kind of like, I'm grasping, I'm kind of clenching my fists, waiting for somebody just to take out his knee and for him to be injured.
And then he's kind of in the same position as Murray too, because you look at the schedule. Only the Saints and the Bucks are the only teams on the schedule, at least right now, that are over 500. Wow, so for him to rack up the stats, he has a chance, especially because with his legs and stuff. Like he has a chance to. I know you're saying with Brady get the 6,000 yards, but Like he can put up some crazy stats too, especially with his legs. So it could be interesting. Who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Kyler Murray. To be honest with you,
Okay.
yeah, it's Kyler Murray, and dude, team 6-0, and I think a lot of that's because of him. Don't get me wrong; I think the team is a phenomenal team, and they're built really, really well. They do everything well. They're one of the teams that actually does everything well. Overall, they're a really good team. They run the ball well. They protect Kyler Murray well.
Yeah.
Their wide receivers are probably one of the top ones in the league.
For sure.
Like AJ.
And
who would think AJ would be as good as he is right now?
Yeah, I know. And then they picked up Zach Ertz too, right?
They just picked up Zach Ertz. They have D-Hop, which is probably the best wide receiver in the league.
Yep.
And then their defense, they're young, they're fast. They have good DBs.
Yep.
Yeah, they could rush the ball. They're amazing at rushing the ball. So, I mean, overall, they're probably the best team overall when you look at the defense and the offense. And, Kyler Murray he's having his best season ever. He's right up there with the Aaron Rodgers and the Tom Brady's. And statistically, he's playing amazing. And I can't front. 6-0. That's all I got to say.
All right. I've already said my piece with Murray, but number 2 for me is Lamar Jackson.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. That's he started off the season struggling a little bit, and then when you look at the stats too, it's not he's got 9 TDs and 5 picks, but I feel like the picks were a little earlier in the season. You know what I mean? But to me, he's matured a lot in the pocket, man. I
agree.
Like he always uses his legs like a super weapon, but you don't feel like he leans on it the way he did like other seasons. You know what I mean? He's definitely more confident making plays in the pocket. Like big plays too. Big clutch plays, you know what I mean? But I don't know, I just don't get the impression that this is like a hot streak that he's on when it comes to his arm. I think this is who he is now. That game versus the Chargers last week, it was pretty masterful, man. To me, it was by far, and I love Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is a beast, but he was by far the best player on the field. Honestly, in that game, you didn't feel like there was a play he couldn't make.
I can't even front. I mean, to be honest with you, I have Lamar Jackson as number 1. I do.
Okay.
And why do I have him at number 1? Because of the last 2 games that I've watched him play.
Yeah.
That Colts game that he had, he was terrible for the first 3 quarters. Calvin, he was so bad. So bad.
Roger, I went to bed. I know what game you're talking about, the Monday night game. I went to bed.
It was? He was terrible. He was honestly terrible. And then something, I don't know what happened. It was a switch that turned on, and he was unstoppable. Unstoppable.
Yeah.
I couldn't even believe it. I stopped watching it after the 3rd quarter. I stopped watching the game after the 3rd quarter, and then something told me, I was watching something else, and something told me, let me just check the score. I checked the score, and it's Baltimore's up. It was 31-25, and I was like, what the hell happened? What the hell? The Colts had him. They figured out how to stop him. They were playing their Baltimore's wide receivers amazing. They had them beat for the first 3 quarters. They had them beat down, and then he just flipped the switch. And the only reason why I say Lamar Jackson is because I feel like no other team has had as many injuries. They have right now. They have 15 players on IR right now.
All the running back, basically.
Absolutely. They had their starting running back, J.K. Dobbins, tore his ACL. 2 weeks later, Gus Edwards tore his ACL. Their second running back. A day later, Marcus Peters, they're probably one of their best defensive players and one of the best defensive backs out there. He tore his ACL as well.
Yeah, they had to throw holy water on the field at some point.
I'm telling you, they've lost O linemen, they've lost D linemen, they've lost every position, 100%. Yet somehow they're flipping 5-1.
I know.
They're 5-1. They only lost to the Raiders, and that was the first game of the season. And I almost feel like that was a fluke.
And honestly, you're right. And honestly, too, they've been in a lot of close games that they've been successful. To me, especially in football, well, any sport really, but especially in football, that sets you up for the long run, man. Those close games, that shit adds up.
It really does. They took down the Chiefs. That alone puts him on top for me. They took down the Chiefs. Do you know what Lamar Jackson's record is before this year against all the teams inside the NFL. He has an 85% winning record. His record in the last, I think it was like the last 2 seasons, was something like, what was it again? I think it was like 12 and no, sorry, not 12. It was something like 20-2 or something within the last 2 seasons, coming off the last season.
Yeah.
The team that he constantly loses to is Kansas City.
Kansas City. Yeah.
Kansas City has always been his kryptonite. And this year he finally slayed the beast, and he looked like the best quarterback in that game.
Now,
and that's why I have to put him on top. I
agree with it. But the funny thing is too, like that game against Detroit, like that play that set up that 66-yard field goal, that was an underratedly amazing play. Like that was an amazing throw that he threw. I forgot, was it the Hollywood? No, I think it was Sammy Watkins. I think he threw. It was amazing. He was basically on his 1 yard line, and he threw a bomb. And I mean, mind you, it was Detroit, but it was something so clutch about that, where I was just like wow, this season might be going a different direction here. And then, like I said, the way he dismantled the Chargers, I'm like honestly, this is why I don't have him number 1, Rodgers, because of Derrick Henry. That's the only reason why.
You put Derrick Henry
number one after that game. Like that's the only reason. Like he was number 1 to me until that last game. And honestly, pretty much for everything that you said. And honestly, they were probably like 1A and 1B. I'll be honest with you. Like there was really a toss up between those two. But I'm riding a hot hand right now. What can I say? But
fair enough.
But you know what? When was the last time a running back won MVP? Like I can name you in the last 30 years. I can name you 5. I think it's Emmitt Smith,
Adrian Peterson.
Oh yeah, Peterson. So okay, there's 6.
Peterson.
So maybe Peterson was the last one. Peterson might have been the last one. So yeah, 8. Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, Terrell Davis, Sean Alexander. What the hell happened to that guy? Sean Alexander, and then LT Tomlinson.
You know what? And I think you're forgetting one more. The dude from Denver. What was his name? The running back from Denver.
No, I just said his name. I said Terrell Davis.
Oh, sorry, Terrell Davis. Sorry, yes. Sorry, you're right, Terrell Davis. Yeah.
So those are the 5, and I forgot when he ran for 2,000 yards. Adrian Peterson. I forgot about that season for him.
Adrian Peterson. It was the year he came back.
I forgot about that. But so see, he would be the last one since then to win it. But like just everything you said, like the fact that if he goes back to back 2,000-yard seasons, Roger, I think, especially if he gets it before week 18 because they've added this extra game. I don't care what anybody throws for you. I think you just hand him the trophy.
But it also depends on this record, Calvin.
Well, that's true too. But right now they're 4-2.
If they have a losing record, they don't give MVPs to somebody who has a shitty record.
Of course not. But right now they're 4-2. They're not in a strong division. They're probably going to make the playoffs, especially as they get healthier. And the way he's running right now, he's the big catalyst of that. Like, I mean, they got some good weapons, but because of injuries and ineffective play, like he's basically, like, we were saying earlier, just he put the team on his back. Like
I came in front.
To me, he's a cross between Adrian Peterson and Christian Okoye.
I would say Adrian Peterson and oh my gosh, what was the name of that dude that used to play for he used to play for the Titans as well. Eddie George. Eddie George.
That's actually, you know what? That's a good comparison, Eddie George. But
Eddie George, because he had the size, just like Eddie George.
And he's bigger than Eddie George. That's a crazy thing.
And he's bigger than Eddie George. Yep, and probably faster than Eddie George too.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. I met Eddie George. Eddie George is a big guy, man. Like,
he's a big dude.
Eddie George, I'm 6'3". Eddie George was like probably like I want to say maybe like a half inch taller than me.
Solid,
which is crazy,
just
right? Yeah, because which is crazy. I mean, I met him after he was done playing football. He's still, Eddie George still in amazing shape, but I'm like, the fact that he's a running back, I'm like, damn. Like, I know you were in Timberlands, but I'm like, yo, this guy's a little taller than me right now. What the hell's going on? Like, he's a big dude, man. He's a big dude. And I think Henry's about the same height too. He's about 6'.
Henry's I think Henry's about the same height. He's around 6'4". Probably a good solid 250, 260 pounds.
Yeah, it's nuts, man.
The only difference is the guy runs a 4.4.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And like literally, who's stopping this guy? Like, I mean, Yeah, it's literally I don't know. I don't know how these DBs do it. I saw him run over what they faced. What was the Bills? I saw the safety. The safety look shook. I looked into this guy's eyes. I don't know if you saw that. It was one hit. It was the one hit that they kept on showing over and over again. It was him versus Henry, and the guy literally just dropped to his knees and just kind of closed his eyes. And I felt like Derrick Henry just tripped over him, honestly, because the dude just looked so scared. And I couldn't even blame him. I'd be like, if I was in the same position, I'd do the same shit too.
It's like tackling a middle linebacker.
100%. Absolutely. Absolutely. This guy literally just dropped to his knees, and I felt like he closed his eyes and he just waited for impact.
Yeah.
So, I mean, oh, man, you got to... Derrick Henry's amazing. Like, he's beyond amazing right now. He is beyond... I can't even front at number one. I'm just like... I look at it, and I look at Lamar, and I'm like...
No, like I said, I had them 1A and 1B. And like I said, up until that game, I had Lamar number one. Yeah. Like that's how much to me Derrick Henry kind of pushed himself on my list. Like that's how fast that happened. Those last two games, and even more so this game, you're just like, Roger, like he is. I want to look at this again to make sure I have this right, but I believe he is. I'll tell you this right now. Hold on, he is 260 yards ahead of the second place runner.
Crazy. That's crazy.
So I think Nick Chubb, and then and Elliott is like at 521, but he's 260 yards away from those two guys. Like that to me that's nuts. And again, considering because usually, and you know this, usually when a running back runs for 2,000 yards, there's usually a regression the next year. You know what I mean? Like every single one of them is. Even Barry Sanders is my guy, but he went to like 1,500 the next year, which is still a great year.
Still amazing, yeah.
It's still a great year, but it's not 2,000 yards. You know what I mean? But like there's always like a regression, a drop off. But man, like I said again, the fact that this guy can do this even without the extra game.
Yeah, it's freaky.
Like I said, if he does that before week 18, you just like I said, just don't even have the NFL honors. Don't even do the award show. Just give him the trophy.
Give him the award.
Yeah, just give him the trophy. And especially if they make the playoffs, like he doesn't have to have he doesn't have to have an amazing. The team doesn't have to be like, even if they go like 10-6, 11-5, as long as they make the playoffs, just give him the trophy. Like I don't know what the other quarterbacks are gonna have to do to top that, because back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons. And what if he gets more? Well, actually, because of the extra game, he's going to get more yards.
He's definitely going to get more yards.
This is why I hate the extra game, because it messes up the stats now.
Absolutely.
I hate the extra game for that.
I agree 100%. It's now there's going to be an asterisk between every single. There's going to be for every single stat out there that gets broken. There's going to be an asterisk. Yeah. Because it's going to be like, well, these guys did in 16 games, and now there's 17 games. So, yeah, I agree completely with that, 100%. I'm not feeling the extra game. Not at all.
It's funny. The most I saw the stat the other day, and this has nothing to do with Henry, but because I think Calvin Johnson and Randy Moss are the only ones that had a better season. I believe he caught 2,000 yards. I think Calvin Johnson one year, which is crazy. I believe he did. But actually, it was a touchdowns. Actually, it wasn't the yards. It was the touchdowns. It was a touchdown. So Randy Moss holds the record for 23 touchdowns in a 16-game season. Right? That was the year that's the year
he played with Brady.
Yeah, they went undefeated. Right? Yep. At least for the regular season.
Yeah.
So, and this is to tell you, right, where it means something. Now, mind you, the record that he broke was Jerry Rice. Right? Jerry Rice had 22 TDs. But because of the strike-shortened season that he was in, he did that in 12 games.
Wow. That's crazy.
Isn't that stupid? Like that's like
22 TDs in 12 games?
In 12 games.
This guy was averaging roughly around like 1.8
He's basically averaging
per game.
He was basically averaging like about two TDs
touchdowns per game.
Yeah, basically.
That's insane.
That's dumb. That's dumb.
Insane. Wow.
That's dumb. But you look at some of those guys, like even I don't know if you're allowed to say his name anymore in person, but in public, but O.J. Simpson, he got 2,000 yards back in the day, but that was in 14 games. So you see, like every time you add more and more games, it messes up. It kind of messes up history. Like in 10 years, you're not even going to remember. You're just going to be like, oh, but there's going to be more 2,000-yard rushers. Like more and more of that's going to happen now, which is going to kind of mess it up because that was like the lofty goal. You know what I mean? It's like hitting like 60 home runs in a year. You know what I mean, or what have you. So it's like it kind of messes it up now. You know.
I'll tell you one thing though, Calvin, and this is the only reason why I say I don't feel like there are going to be more 2,000-yard rushers, simply for the fact that getting 2,000 yards is like the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
Like even last year, there was Derrick Henry with his 2,000 yards, and I think the next closest person was like 1,500.
Yeah, no, you're right. And then the way running backs are set up now, like you to get a bell cow now was like almost impossible.
100%. I don't believe like there's very few teams.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all about timeshare now, and rightfully so, because most bell cows, they don't last very long. Derrick Henry is the only exception. I mean, even Zeke had he came into the league and he was absolutely phenomenal for the first 2 years. Got a few injuries. Next 2 years, he wasn't as good. I almost feel like this year he's playing a lot better, but he also has Pollard behind him, and he's in more of a timeshare now. He's not a workhorse anymore. Christian McCaffrey, look at him. I feel like Christian McCaffrey is like a warning to every running back out there, every great running back out there, because they worked this guy to the bone, to the point where he got injured last year. He was out the whole year, and I feel like he hasn't been straight since.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this guy's been injured. He played like 2 games, and the Panthers, I think 3 games actually. The Panthers won the 3 games that they played, that he played in.
Haven't won since.
And they haven't won since. And he hasn't been seen since. He got injured. He was on the verge of coming back.
And now he's
and
on
then
IR
he
for
re-injured
3 more
himself
games.
again.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's going to be another 3 games. That's going to be 6 games that he's out.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's right after they gave him that big contract. Everybody's going to be looking at it right now, and they're like, Christian McCaffrey, we gave this guy, $14, $15 million a year. And the very next year, he just broke down. So I almost feel like, there's not going to be any, like, it's rare that you're going to have bell cows anymore. And a lot of teams are moving towards a timeshare because they want to keep the running back fresh and they don't want to get their running back injured.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. It does mess it up though. Like that's kind of reason why I hate the extra game, because it's gonna mess with the records. But you're right though. The way it's set up now, it's almost impossible for a guy to even get to 1,500. Yeah. Like I think the year before, I think who was the leading rusher? I think it was Nick Chubb. I think it might have been.
I think it was after Henry, right?
No, I'm talking about the year before. Like I can't remember who.
Oh, the year before.
But I remember looking at it, and it was like 1,300 yards, and I'm like, that's it. Yeah. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Because it never used to be like that before. Like usually the leading rusher would always be like at least 1,500. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
1,600 yards, and now it's like, like you get to 1,300, it's almost like a fantastic season. It's like, what the hell? Like that, it never used to be like that before.
Yep. I agree. But timeshares, man, timeshare. Yeah, it's harder now. It's harder, especially for running backs. I mean, they don't pay running backs what they're supposed to pay running backs, and on top of that, I feel like they're almost interchangeable to a point.
Yeah.
Whereas they get injured, they bring in somebody else, and it's like, running backs don't get the respect they should get.
They used to.
Derrick Henry is the one. I feel like Derrick Henry is the crowning. He's like the king. He's the anomaly. He's the exception to the rule. And he just doesn't make any sense. Like I said, he doesn't make any sense. I see this guy run. It doesn't make any sense, Calvin.
No, it really doesn't.
Yeah, when was the last time he was injured? Like, I can't even remember any time he was ever injured.
He doesn't get hurt.
He doesn't get hurt.
He does. But part of it, though, too, is because I think people are afraid to hit him. Like,
probably.
Like honestly, like once he gets past the line of scrimmage, once he gets past that first wave, he's not taking big hits.
No,
like
no.
At some point it's gonna come. Like somebody, it's gonna come at some point. But I think right now where he's at the peak of his powers. I don't think anybody wants to tackle him like that. Like
I don't think anybody wants to take him on. Like if this was back in the day with like Ray Lewis, if it was Ray Lewis, if Ray Lewis was in the center, Ray Lewis would go head on head with him.
Oh, yeah, he would.
Absolutely, no doubt. I saw Ray Lewis he's taken on Eddie Lacy. I remember he took on Eddie George, knocked Eddie George on his ass. He took on Darrell Davis. He took on all the big running backs at the time.
Bettis. Yeah, I remember Bettis.
But I don't feel like there's anybody right now that really, maybe like Myles Garrett.
Yeah, but he's more like a defensive end.
He is 100%. So the days of the big linebackers, the big 260-pound linebackers, they're still around, but I just feel like these guys are not willing to take those big hits and make those big hits like back in the day when you had the older guys who just the Joey Porters, the Ray Lewises. Those guys would definitely be at Henry 100%.
Even a few years ago with with my Niners, I would say, because even with Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman, like those guys would go after him too.
Yeah, all those guys, because those guys are like, they're hard nosed.
Yeah,
they'll take anybody down 100%. But I feel nowadays it's like, don't get me wrong, the linebackers are getting faster, they're getting stronger 100%. But I just don't feel like they have that. Nobody. I almost feel like they're not going after the big hits anymore. And also, I think it's because of the rules too, right?
Yeah, that's it too.
The rules have changed. You can't hit the guy in his helmet. Half the time, you can't chop a guy. You can't chop block guys anymore. The rules have changed in order to benefit the offensive players.
Yeah,
and also to make sure that these guys don't get injured, because it's just gone to a point where, at one point everybody was getting injured all the time, and it's no fun when all the stars are out of the game and you're watching like the third string quarterback and the third string running back playing in the game because everybody else is injured, right?
No, it's true. It's true.
The NFL's a product, and they want to always have their best product.
That's it. It. Well, you know what? Let's let's call it a game here for the time being. Cool. But we'll come back and I guess to do the second third of the season. So I guess that'll be around week, maybe let's say like maybe week 12. Let's say around there maybe.
All right, sounds good.
Week 12, 18 game season. So so week 12 we'll come back and reassess the situation. Let's see if let's see if this Sean Watson trade gets pulled off and see if Miami makes a little bit of a run. Hopefully Detroit wins the game by then. We'll see what happens.
I'm pulling for Detroit, man. I'm not gonna lie. I like Detroit. I really do like Detroit.
Yeah, you don't want to see coaches cry, man.
No. And I feel like what's his name, the quarterback, Jared Goff. I feel like he's disrespected. I do feel like he's disrespected. I don't think he's as bad as they made him out to be. And
although we got called out the other day, but
he did get called out, pretty badly by the coach, 100%, who thought that he could play better.
And let's hope, lastly, Roger, by the love of God, we're moving up the standings in our fantasy league. We got a rally, man. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I'm flabbergasted every week. I look at my losses. I'm just sitting back like I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
I know. It's embarrassing. Honestly, it's embarrassing. Not in last, but might as well be in last place. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's
honestly embarrassing.
It's sad. Let's not talk about it anymore.
Moving on. Yes.
Thank you for checking out the Ave Podcast. A special shout out goes out to Roger Calendar for discussing the first third of this NFL season. We'll be back at the end of next week with a new episode. Make sure you check out the recently released NBA season preview series that I put out to launch at the opening of the new season, which does not include Ben Simmons seemingly taking a leave of absence due to mental health. And it doesn't include AD and Dwight Howard wanting to throw hands on their own squad. Check out SalSharaf.com for the catalog. And listen, rate, review, and subscribe. Share this out with your peoples and leave comments as well. I appreciate y'all. For Roger Calendar, this is Cal C. And you just tuned in to the Ave Podcast on South Shore Ave Radio. Until next time, folks, peace.